Now to that furious response from President Trump. I want to go to our chief White House correspondent, John Carl. And John, what a surreal scene there in the White House. The president surrounded by all those military brass and then really let loose.
He is angry, George. He is lashing out. And the president is openly musing about firing the special counsel. It took no prompting. Surrounded by the nation's top military leaders for a meeting about Syria, the president instead launched into an attack against special counsel Robert Mueller.
So I just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys, good man, and it's a disgraceful situation. It's a total witch hunt. I've been saying it for a long time.
He went on for nearly 8 minutes, calling the raid on his personal lawyer's office a, quote, attack on our country.
Talking about a lot of serious things with the greatest fighting force ever. And I have this witch hunt constantly going on for over 12 months now. And it's a disgrace. It's frankly a real disgrace. It's an attack on our country in a true sense.
His wrath aimed not just at the special counsel, but also at his own attorney general, Jeff Sessions.
He should have certainly let us know if he was going to recuse himself, and we would have put a different attorney general in. So he made what I consider to be a very terrible mistake for the country. But you'll figure that out.
And for the first time, he publicly mused about firing the special counsel investigating him.
Fire Mueller. Why don't I just fire Mueller? Well, I think it's a disgrace what's going on. We'll see what happens. But I think it's really a sad situation when you look at what happened. And many people have said you should fire him. Again, they found nothing. And in finding nothing, that's a big statement. Some of the president's closest allies in Congress have warned him that firing Mueller would be a grave mistake that would trigger a constitutional crisis, maybe even impeachment. People close to the president have told me that he has heard that message, that he understands it. But, George, after what we saw last night, nobody has any idea what the president will do on this.
None at all. Okay, John, thanks very much. Let's talk more about this now with our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. Christie, former New Jersey governor, federal prosecutor, also a friend and ally of President Trump. Does he understand what firing Robert Mueller would mean?
I think he does. I think he does. But I think that what John just said is right. I mean, I think the president is really angry about this and expressed that yesterday. I think he does understand it. But I think there's lots of people who are concerned that, you know, his reaction to this may overcome what he's already been told.
And if he pulls the trigger?
Well, that's a big problem. It's a big problem. And I've told him that. I mean, you know, you can't fire the special counsel. You just can't. And I think, you know, now we're looking at the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, who I know well, a guy from New Jersey was appointed there by Attorney General Sessions. This is a good guy, Jeff Berman. He's a Boy Scout. He'll do the right thing.
And Dan, explain how many hoops they had to go through to get this raid of Michael Cohen's offices.
Robert Mueller did not make this decision. Robert Mueller made the decision that this is actually outside the scope of what I'm supposed to be doing.
But to be clear, he came upon evidence, he thought, of some criminal activity.
It seems he came upon some sort of potential criminal activity. He then hands it off effectively to Rod Rosenstein, who's the Deputy Attorney General, says, look, we found this. You decide what to do with it. Rod Rosenstein then makes a referral, meaning basically says to the Southern District of New York, look, here's what we got. You decide what to do with this. Then the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, appointed by Jeff Sessions just recently, interviewed with Donald Trump, makes a decision to then seek out a search warrant. A judge then signs off on it. The standard for a judge to sign off on this is high. Furthermore, it's probable cause that a crime was committed, that evidence might be destroyed, but you also have these internal Justice Department regulations. Yeah. When it comes to something like raiding a lawyer's office, you literally have to keep going back and forth to main justice. Everyone here seems to...
So this is approved every step of the way. But how extraordinary are the president's personal lawyer?
Well, it's not that extraordinary in this respect. Well, for the president, sure. But, I mean, you know, this happens. You know, I did it when I was U.S. Attorney. You get permission. But as Dan said, you know, they went to justice at least twice on this. Rosenstein sent it to the U.S. Attorney in the Southern. He took an independent look at it. He could have just said, I don't see anything here, or I'll just serve some subpoenas or take some less intrusive steps. He thought that one of two things was happening. Either he had evidence that Cohen was not cooperating with subpoenas that had already been served, and or that Cohen was in the midst of destroying evidence. And that's what he went to the Justice Department with. This had to get signed off by the head of the criminal division and by the Deputy Attorney General again before they get to the FBI and execute.
So Michael Cohen clearly in some legal jeopardy right now. We'll see what the investigation uncovers. That also increases the pressure on him, perhaps, to give information on President Trump.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to violate the attorney-client privilege. Look, there's an exception to the attorney-client privilege. A lot of people are saying, what about attorney-client privilege here? Yes, there are two issues there. Number one is there's going to be a team of people who are going to go in and determine anything that's potentially protected by the attorney-client privilege and say, this information does not go to investigators, period. The second thing is there's an exception called the crime-fraud exception, which means that if the authorities believe that the president and his lawyer, or anyone and their lawyer, are together engaged in a possible crime or fraud, then the attorney-client privilege doesn't necessarily apply. We don't know exactly.
We just heard from the president on this right now. He said the attorney-client privilege is dead. Total win shot.
Yeah, well, the attorney-client privilege is not dead because of the way the Justice Department is going to approach this. As Dan said, there's going to be a taint team. They call it a taint team because you don't want to taint the prosecutors who are actually investigating it by seeing potentially privileged information that they have no right to see. So you're bringing a whole separate team of agents and assistant U.S. attorneys who are going to examine this. They're going to separate it into stuff that's privileged, stuff that isn't. And then of the stuff that's privileged, is there any evidence of a crime or a fraud?
There's no privilege for evidence of a crime.
No, for a crime or fraud that's an ongoing crime or fraud, not a past one.
Between the two of them.
That's right.
It would have to be between the two of them, meaning if they think that President Trump may have committed a crime, there's still an attorney-client privilege there with his lawyer.
It's got to be a conspiracy-like situation, George, that they see clear evidence of. And let's remember one other thing. People are going to try to jump to conclusions this morning about a lot of things. The only thing that we know for sure about this morning is what I said a long time ago to you, which is there's no way you can make this investigation shorter, but there's lots of ways you can make it longer.
And this was evidence of that this morning.
Of that.
Thank you both. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.